Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. A serious situation is unfolding out west with an intense atmospheric river event making landfall today across the Bay Area. And that low pressure center literally just kind of sits and stalls out, bringing those heavy torrential rains and an upgraded high risk for those areas into Santa Barbara through Los Angeles, as they're expecting very heavy rain that could lead to life-threatening flash flooding. So I appreciate all my subscribers out there. This channel is up to 238,000 subscribers. I would love to reach 250 by March. And if you are new here, I do a lot of content on a daily basis doing daily breakdowns. So hit the subscribe button and follow along to keep you well ahead of the storm. So here's some updated wind gusts from the National Weather Service. And yeah, they're printing out some pretty heavy winds with that low pressure center literally just kind of sitting and stalling out there. Those areas into 50 miles an hour, upwards to 60 miles an hour, will filter all along the coast through Santa Barbara, through Oxnard, even getting into the Los Angeles region. Once you filter inland, yeah, some of those mountain peaks could pick up some hurricane force wind gusts. And yeah, they're estimated 93 miles an hour up there in Big Pine Mountain. So some very intense winds as power outages is definitely going to be a huge concern as well. So if we look at the overall satellite picture, you can kind of see what we're talking about. We've got this low pressure center just kind of hanging out across the west coast into the Bay Area. But look at the precipitation. This is the atmospheric river event that we're talking about, a steady stream of water vapor, 250, 500 miles wide, that will just be pummeling those areas into Southern California. And it's not just a one-day wonder, folks. This looks to be for an extended period of time, especially through Tuesday, but this could lead all the way into that Thursday timeframe, as they're still expecting those heavier rains. Further off into the southeast, we do have a low pressure center setting up across portions of Kansas. That's leading into some instability and some rain showers across this region. But once you get into Florida, those activities do get a little bit stronger. In fact, for southern Florida, those areas could lead to some severe storms later on this afternoon. In fact, right now, we do have a tornado watch for those areas through that 2 p.m. time frame, essentially from Cape Coral all the way into Miami, all the way in down to the Key West. So it's just that southern tip, but those thunderstorms are just kind of offshore, and some of those are isolated supercells that could lead to some of those spin-up tornadoes. So definitely a concern through that 2 o'clock time frame for some of that isolated activity to possibly spin up a tornado or two within this region, along with those 60+ mile per hour winds and some isolated pockets of some larger hail is definitely not ruled out across this region. But you can see from the satellite picture and the overall radar picture from that low pressure center what it kind of looks like for California. So it's just a relentless event. So right now it's coming ashore across those areas into the Bay Area, through San Francisco, through San Jose. And this will be extending further south all the way into Santa Barbara, eventually getting into Los Angeles, and eventually heading into San Diego. But look at some of these mountain ranges. So we're talking feet of snow coming down 4, 5, 6, almost 7 inches per hour at times in some of these mountain passes. Yeah, they're calling 2 to 4, even 3 to 6 feet. I mean, some of these, yeah, reading the discussion, some areas could pick up some 7 feet of snow. So yeah, and pretty intense totals and a lot of water just impacting the West Coast. And that is going to be a huge event, because the big deal about high risk are they only happen around 4% of the days. So it's pretty rare that the National Weather Service does issue one of these. But the concern is 39% of all fatality related flood risk happen on high risk days, and any damages that might occur from flood related damages, about 83% of those happen on high risk days. So that is today, folks. That is the concern with this potential setup as it's coming ashore. And looking at the latest update, I wanted to wait until this kind of updated. So this is your highest resolution guidance, the HER model, goes out 48 hours. This is through that Tuesday morning around 4 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, definitely concerning totals, folks. This is the latest data that updates every single hour and that pulls it through the next 2 days. And yes, those areas across Santa Barbara through Oxnard, easily over 6-inch totals. Some areas could pick up some 12 inches. There's Los Angeles printing out some 6-inch totals. But even some of these higher elevations, folks, I mean, some of these areas in isolated spots, yeah, look at that, 16 inches of heavy rainfall, and that's just over 2 days. That's not even counting what all the rain you've seen previously, and this is not even the entire event. This is only the next 2 days, and definitely what's concerning is the next high resolution guidance, the NAM 3K, is also implying the same thing. So we've got two of the best high resolution models on the latest update showing, hey, we've got some concerning totals that looks to unfold. That's exactly why this high risk is in place for dangerous flash flooding that could lead to some life-threatening flash flooding on top of all those high wind gusts that could lead to the power outages and the mudslides. So it's just a nasty, dangerous scenario that could unfold over the next 2 days across those areas into Southern California. So take this event seriously. And I would advise you just to kind of stay home if at all cost, and just, leaving yourself out of the troubled waters. But if you are leaving out and about, don't cross a road that you can't see the bottom. It only takes 6 inches of water to lift up your car and kind of take it downstream. This happens fast, folks, and water travels 6 to 12 miles an hour. So once you don't have traction, then you're going to be shifting downstream, and even you can be swept off your feet as well. And that's obviously very dangerous. So definitely take this very seriously as torrential rains looks to come aboard. But if you break it down over the next 4 days, this is the kind of the activity from now through Thursday. So it's not just those areas into Southern California. It's pretty much the entire state is going to be clocked with heavy rainfall as that low pressure center just kind of sets up shop across the Bay Area and just pumps in that relentless amount of water vapor as an intense, it was often referred to as an atmospheric river event, pummels in that extreme amount of heavy water vapor across those same regions. But it also does filter in those places in Nevada. So even Las Vegas could lead to some flash flooding concerns. Even those areas into Arizona. So these are areas that don't really see that much rainfall, and this is coming in fast and furious across the Four Corners region. So you got the dry slide over there in eastern New Mexico, but then you have that instability that's highlighted right now over the southeast, and then of course you got the high pressure over the top, and then underneath we do have those severe weather concerns at least through the afternoon time frame. But there's a slow progression. So we've been kind of hinting at this, in some of my longer range guidances, as this ridge will slowly start to break down for a good part of the country. And as it does, it's going to be a slow process. That's going to allow this more troughing to be built underneath across the west, but also start to sneak further into those central U.S. states as some of that colder air will finally start to be released up there from Alaska as they start to kind of warm up there. That'll start eventually filtering some of this colder air kind of underneath, and as it does, that's going to pull the axis of the jet stream, and instead of making it more of a kind of a west to east trajectory as it has been over the last 7 to 10 days, now we start to see a little bit of a buckle by the time we go into that Friday time frame, by the end of the work week, as some of that colder air, as high pressure starts to build up there in Alaska. That's going to funnel the colder air further south across the western regions, but it's also going to buckle this jet stream, put the elongation a little bit further north. So as this colder air comes in, it's going to be mixing in with some more snow opportunities. It's about time. We still are in the middle of the winter. So we got snow opportunities coming back for the Four Corners regions, but those areas that kind of been in that dry slot lately across the Dakotas, now we've got snow highlighted over those areas by that Friday time frame. And then we got the rain coming back with the buckling of the jet stream heading into that Friday time frame. So over the upper Midwest, you finally get back into precipitation category as some of that colder air will start to slowly, it's a slow process, folks, slowly start to filter down. And as it does, every single day it'll get a little bit further south and a little bit further east. And so now those areas into Minnesota where you've been under that dry slot, we'll start to see into the snow showers, into Wisconsin. Notice the 540 line, right? So that's your freezing line, just, dipping a little bit, slowly dipping a little bit further south, as you can definitely see by the time we head into that Sunday time frame. So next Sunday, now the ridging is definitely over the top. So right, they've been crazy cold up there up in Alaska. In fact, Fairbanks just hit 50 below zero yesterday morning. Chicken, Alaska hit 62 below zero. So they're looking for a rapid warm up across those regions over the next 7 to 10 days. And that will eventually start to filter that colder air underneath. So those western regions get into the action first, and that will slowly drift into our central US as that buckle of the jet stream starts to unfold, and that'll allow these systems to come a little bit further south. So by the time we do head into next Sunday time frame, yes, we've got another big system highlighted over the central US as it pulls in a little bit more of that colder air, at least making it feel more like February time frame, and that's going to pull the storm track a little bit further south. So yes, those areas across eastern New Mexico where you've been in that dry slot, right? You finally get back in the action as the overall setup starts to pull further south. You got the cold air coming in from the west. You got the buckling in the jet stream that's going to make the overall weather setup shift a little bit. And with that shift, that's going to bring the precipitation back into those areas that have been in that dry slot, into eastern New Mexico, across the Texas Panhandle, but now those areas across Kansas, back into Nebraska, even into Iowa, will start getting into the snow again. And then further south, we've got the system coming ashore across those areas across the southern plains, and eventually heading into the southeast. And again, those areas, once we get deeper into even into next week, heading into that Monday timeframe, with that shift in the trough, shifts a little bit further off, right? It's further south, further east. That puts the precipitation and the elongation of that jet stream further off to the east. So yes, instead of those areas just in the southeast, now you're going to start to share the precipitation back again into the mid-Atlantic regions. And yes, those areas across northern Illinois will get back into the snow track again, into Wisconsin and back into Michigan as we head into that next Monday timeframe. But the slow progression is there, folks. So that next Monday and the overall 500 millibar kind of shows you that slow progression of the slowly eroding ridge of high pressure starts to slowly start to filter and push back up there in Canada and over into Greenland, but especially up there in Alaska. The further north it gets and the more time it kind of pulls over there, then yeah, that's going to eventually kind of trap the colder air, but it's going to start west and eventually start to shift into the central US, and then eventually head into those eastern states by the time we get to mid-month. But yeah, the warm up is real, folks, coming for Alaska. So they've hit bottom yesterday. They were in the freezer. In fact, Fairbanks, this has only been the 5th time since 2001 they actually hit 50 below. So it's even for them, it's been more or less rare territory, but this extreme cold they've been under. But that cold air has got to go somewhere if they're going to start to warm up. And by next Monday time frame, a 35-degree high temperature in Fairbanks is going to feel like a heat wave, when they had a high temperature of 38 below just yesterday. So with the 50 below zero cold, with the lower 14, that's a 65-degree swing. So that cold air's got to go somewhere, and it will be slowly filtering further south, and eventually the lower 48 will finally start to get back and feeling a lot more like February versus what it has been like April. So you can see the transition by the time we get into mid-month, right? By the time we head into mid-month, the slow progression will start to really start to take shape. You got more blocking over the top over Greenland. You've got the ridge highlighted back over to Alaska. That's going to put the trough access further south, put the cold air further south, and eventually it'll buckle the jet stream. And those areas across the east will finally start to get back into some of those colder temperatures and the elongation and mixing in that precipitation as well at the same time. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button and catch me next update where I protect you before and after the storm.